Tell me how Gloria comes into the picture.
So in 2017, we had the Girls Empowerment Camp, and Gloria DiCosti was among the teachers who had come to teach at the camp, to teach the girls at the camp. So when she heard about this story, Gloria managed to connect us with the professor, one professor, Andy Rora from University of Michigan, and then we sent a proposal to the university to help us
well, to get some students who would be willing to study and look at you and your methods with Otakaraka as a student project. Was that right?
yes. Yeah, so we sent a proposal to University of Michigan to help us with students to come and study our project as Otakaraka and help us to map the way forward.
Okay. And did they come?
So our proposal made it, and we had 5 students who came to study the project, and now these students are...
Well, the students looked at what you were doing. They said, Ida, what you are doing is magnificent. We don't need to teach you how to do better leadership or better business management, but to be able to help you with getting more girls in school, we have to help find ways of raising money to get the girls scholarships.
Yeah. So when the students came and after observed what we have been doing, they said that all they wanted to do is also to help us raise more money, so that was to raise more money so that we could be able to support more girls to end their forced marriages and go back to school, and also reach out to other villages that might experience same problems and there is no one to support them.
Now, what are they going to do? What are they preparing?
So at the moment, the Michigan University are among the Board of Trustees in the US, Otakaka Board of Trustees in the US, and they have formed IDA, I Demand Access, and they are trying to raise some funds so that they can sponsor more girls to go back to school.
Let's start back a little bit. That can raise money. What are we going to name it? Let's name it IDA for Ida, but that stands for I Demand Access, so that all girls will have access to education. So they went back to the U.S.
So they came to Malawi and they went back to the US. And when they went back, it was when they discussed that they need to form something like to support me, to raise money and send these girls back to school. And that was when they decided to start IDA in form of I Demand Access, and use that to raise money, to raise more money and support more girls, not only in the villages that we are operating from, but even to go to further villages and sponsor the girls beyond secondary school.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah, I want to talk about
Just
the
describe,
environment.
explain for somebody sitting in America and they're seeing these people come over and teach dance and have storytelling. Why should they care?
So we started the girls' empowerment camp with the aim of empowering the girls. And Annie,
Using art,
no, Annie was
using art and music and
okay.
dance.
We started the girls' empowerment camp with the aim of supporting the girls to become independent, using art such as music, drama, and storytelling. In the past years, girls have been regarding themselves as some human beings who are just powerless. Like they cannot perform in class, they cannot compete with boys in class, and they're even shy to express themselves. So we were like, no, you need to start expressing yourself. You need to take part or participate in classwork. And you need to speak out when someone is abusing you. You don't need to have secrets anymore. So after we started the girls empowerment camp, we were lucky because it was covered throughout the media here in Malawi. And because of that, more girls learned about it and they started to speak out. They were interested to see me. They were interested to share their stories. They were interested for us to help them to end their forced marriages and send them back to school.
Okay, now tell me what's in.
During the empowerment camp, we bring the girls together because these are the girls that are living in different villages and they have different lifestyles. Of course, they may have the common lifestyle of forced to get married, but they all have their own secrets and they all have their own stories to tell. So we bring them together and we teach them. Actually, it's not me or the volunteers that teach them, but it's not me or the Otakaka volunteers, or it's not me or the local Otakaka volunteers that teach them, but there are people from USA that comes to volunteer as teachers. Some of them teach them dancing, others music, others drama, storytelling, and they have like special topics regarding their what we call,
Telling about their lives.
yeah, they have special classes telling about their lives and their stories. So because of this, the girls are able to express themselves, they are able to open up, and they are able to participate in class. And this has brought a very big impact because now girls, some of the girls that have been attending the camp are now on top positions in their classes.
Seems like they're learning more self-esteem, I am a woman, I'm a girl, but I'm valuable.
Yes.
And they're getting that from those classes.
Yeah, so this camp also helps the girls to get self-esteem, to say, I'm a woman, I'm valuable, I can do what anyone can do, I can become what any man can become. Yes.
And how does dancing and acting and so forth accomplish that?
When they are dancing, it's like the way of expressing themselves, like they feel like they are free. They are flexible. It's just to make their bodies flexible. And by doing that, their hearts, their minds also become flexible. And they are taking this even to their homes, to their villages. It's like they can dance everywhere. If they can dance on camera, it means if they even go to their homes, they can dance. And through this dance, I know that we are now seeing some talents. Some talents are coming up. I can see like professional dancers being produced from these same dances.
Okay.
Want to tell the story about Gloria and your mother, or is that not something that you want to, would that be interesting?
Camp.
Want to tell the story about Gloria and your mother, or is that not something that you want to, would that be interesting?
Camp. Another thing about the girls' empowerment camp in Malawi, there are few role models. I remember during my time, I never had any role model. No. So I never knew that there are some people out there who have careers, like full-time careers in dancing. Others have full-time careers in storytelling. Others have full-time careers in drama. Of course, I knew that people were doing drama for fun, and they were dancing just for fun, or maybe just dancing in churches. But I never knew that one can survive or can make a living using that. So this has helped the girls to realize that it's not about going to school and become a doctor and become a teacher and become a nurse, but someone can also go to school and develop a career on her own, like a dancing career. One can become a professional dancer, one can become a dramatist, and one can even earn a living by storytelling. Because there are times that we are affected by this crisis on unemployment. And if we can produce these talents, like to our young girls, then we should expect that they'll be able to survive and make a living with that talent.
Good.
Yeah.
Now tell me, the um, the empowerment camp is over, or told either of you what have they said was their reaction? Had they ever seen Americans act like this, or teach like this, or do like this?
The reactions were like, they were surprised, because some of the teachers that comes to the camp, maybe on dancing, some of them are men, right? So it's like they're surprised that even men can dance like that. But one important thing that I've noticed is that, I think I've already said that the girls are now able to speak up even about themselves. Previously, girls were shy to speak about their messes. Every time when a girl maybe was in her
Is that
messes.
period?
Yes, period.
Okay, so say it again, because that's the word that is more generally used.
Okay.
Girls are having their periods.
Yeah, in the past, the girls were shy to speak about their monthly periods. I could not even know myself that that was a big secret that they used to have, because most of the times, most of the girls were missing classes, claiming that they were sick. Others could say, I have malaria, things like that, yet they were on their monthly periods. And because they could not tell that to anyone, they were staying indoors until they complete their cycle. So now it's like this has helped them like to speak up to one another to say, how do you handle this? How do you manage to attend classes while you are still in your monthly period? So they're able to speak up. Yes.
Excellent. Okay, that's good. I want to go back and tell me about you're in the village and somebody calls you over to translate.
Yes. So while I was still struggling to find scholarship and go back to college, there was a day when I was called to go and translate for some visitors who had come from America. Actually, there was no one within the village who could translate for them. And the big mistake that they made, they never came with a translator. So they needed one in order to communicate with the people. So I was called from my home to go and translate for them. So you can see how it felt like to be like the only one in the village who can manage to translate for some visitors. So I went there, I translated for them, and they were all surprised to say, how come from the whole village we only managed to find one translator who also happens to be a girl? Yes.
And tell me what happened. So you went, what did you translate, and then what happened?
These people, they had a project in Mulanje with the Young Women Christian Association of Malawi. Their headquarters was in Blantyre, but they had a branch in Mulanje close to my village or near my village. And they came to see what was happening there. And I was just translating, like someone was narrating like the whole thing that was happening. And I was narrating to them. Then they started asking questions, and I was translating. And after everything, they asked me to summarize it on a piece of paper, like the questions that the people had asked. So I summarized the questions and I gave the paper to them. So one of them was interested, Dr. Makita Hill, was interested with me, and she wanted to hear my whole story. That was when I told her about my story, about my education, and why I was in the village that time. Yeah, so she was impressed, and she wanted to send me back to school, and she did.
Okay. Her.
So after we completed everything, Makita approached me and she asked me some few questions because she wanted to know more about me. Actually, Makita is more interested in women empowerment and things like that. So like I said, I was a girl among men and women and I managed to translate for her. So when she came, I told her my story. Then she gave me her email address and asked me to write to her when she goes back to the US. So I was like, I doubted her because by then I had already approached many people to support me. I even sent over 30 letters to so many people that I knew they could manage to help me, but none of them even managed to respond to even one of my emails. Yes, so I took her email, and after some weeks, I wrote to her. I repeated my story, and she responded right away. So she was like the first person to respond to my letters. And that was when she told me that she was going to sponsor me through my college.
Okay. And was there any strings attached when she sponsored you?
To my surprise, she never demanded anything back. There was no any strings attached to the scholarship. All she wanted was to help a young lady go through her studies and be somebody in future.
Okay. And what did that inspire you to do? You were going to school and you didn't write back to her. What did you go back to do with your village?
So Makita really inspired me because all I expected from her was the fees only, but she gave me more than that. She bought me a laptop computer. She gave me a monthly allowance. She even sent me some money to buy some clothes to wear at college. So that amazed me. And seriously, I never expected this from her. So I wrote to her to say, thank you. I promise I will pay you back everything after I graduate. And then she responded to say, no, you don't need to pay me back. All you need is to support someone like a needy person from your village who might need your help after you graduate.
Okay. So now village and you go to the chiefs. Tell going to the chief's story.
Yeah. So I said, no, I cannot wait to graduate and start supporting someone. I should start right away. And I don't need to tell Makita about this. I don't need to tell my parents about this. I know I can do this. So I went to my village, met with my chief, my village chief, and I told him what I wanted to do. Actually, I explained to him how a stranger had supported me. And I tried to explain to him to say, I want to bring this spirit to this village so that people should learn to love one another, to support one another. So the chief was like, no, you cannot do this. I said, why? He said, you are just a girl. I said, so what? He said, you're a girl and you're not supposed to do this. Leave men to do these kind of things. And that made me really angry. Honestly, I was so angry because instead of accepting the offer that I had brought to him, he started looking at my gender to say I was a girl. Like, he brought what the society used to believe, that when you are a girl, you are nobody. You cannot do anything. You cannot lead a group. All you need to do is to go get married, have children, and be a housewife. So the chief refused to support me. And I went back, but when I was going back, I said, I'm going to prove you wrong. And a few weeks later, I went to another chief. Lucky enough, that chief was a woman, and she was from a different village. I told her my story, and she was very happy that a woman was there to start something. And she wanted to support me. And through this chief, she convinced her fellow chiefs from other villages to support me. Actually, she arranged a meeting, like a gathering, whereby every chief came with his or her people to that gathering. And the whole idea was that I should speak to the people, tell them about my plans, and let the people decide on their own whether to work with me or not. So I remember during the day of the gathering, I expected to find 8 chiefs. Unfortunately, there were only 4 chiefs. You know, others could not come just because a girl was the one to speak during the rally. But I never get discouraged. After all, there were about 4,000 people, and 4 chiefs were there. So I spoke to the people. And though some could murmur, some could pretend like they were not hearing, I kept telling them what I wanted to do. I kept telling them about this woman, Makita, and what she had done to me, and how the whole community can learn from that spirit. And after the gathering, it was sad when I asked, like, who wants to join? Who wants to work with me? And for a moment, I saw everyone leaving. And I was like, so only my mom can support me? But lucky enough, there were about 65 people that remained there. And out of 65 people, 61 were women, and only 4 were men. But that did not discourage me.
What did you tell them you wanted to do? What was your project? What did you explain to them?
During the gathering, I explained to them about Makita, what she had done, how she had supported me, and how I wanted to pay back such kindness to my villages. But I told them that I cannot do that on my own. I needed some people to work with me. Like, my plan was to start supporting the older people, especially those who were taking care of orphans. I told them we needed to make sure that they live a good life, like they live in good houses. We needed to repair their grass roofs, their damaged grass roofs. We needed to make sure that they have clean water, they have toilets, they have bathrooms, and they have food in their homes to eat. I told them that we don't need to wait for other people from other villages, or like what Makita had done to me, like to come and support our own people, yet we have all the energy to support them. So I told them that if they are willing to work with me, we can start that right away, and we can be working twice every week to support these people. One thing is that majority of the people in my village, they don't go to work. They depend on farming to survive. So it's like they are home every time. It's not that like they are busy from Monday to Friday, no. And all I asked from them was just 2 days in a week to do this kind of charity.
And did they?
So I was happy that at least 65 people were willing to work with me. Yes.
And you started doing it, and before long, you had a lot more people.
Yes. So even though we started with 65 people, but now we have over 3,500 volunteers. And thousands of them are even on the waiting list, because we don't just pick everyone. Actually, the only day that everyone had a chance to join us was the first day that we had that community gathering. But now, for someone to work with me or to work with Otakaraka, has to send an application, has to apply, had to agree to our conditions and to our terms. Because what we do is that if you are a volunteer, but you are failing to meet the conditions, maybe you are not coming for charity works, you are not contributing the money, then you are not capable of being a volunteer.
Explain the contribution.
Okay, so what happens is that once someone becomes a volunteer, he or she is supposed to work twice a week. That's every Tuesday and Saturday. And that person is supposed to contribute about 7 cents in US dollars every month end. Yes. So once someone is failing to do that, then he or she stops to be a volunteer and is removed from the list. Yes. So we have so many people on the waiting list who wants or who are dying to become volunteers.
Okay.
I know that all they want is to do something for their community. All they want is to participate, because it's like sometimes one is like is proud of himself. Like there's this spirit of pride to say, okay, I'm poor, I don't have money, but at least I'm able to support someone. At least I give out my time to go to someone's home. I'm able to do ABCD, and someone maybe has a roof because of me. Someone has clean water because of me. Someone has a toilet because I took part in that. So there's this pride like that one can have to say, at least I've done something.
You must sometimes think, how did all this start? You must feel so happy when you see all the things that have happened. Really quite remarkable.
Are you guys ready for another round of apple juice?
Well, we just got one more. We're just so now I want you to tell me about the crops and how they have crops and then they're starving, and now how you've been able to help people eat for a whole year. Tell me how that got started. Where did that come from?
Okay.
I mean, because you've been living in that same village and they haven't been eating for the whole time you've been there.
Yeah. So majority of the people in my village are farmers. And for the past years, when I was living there, I've watched people struggling with hunger. I've watched young children dying, others getting malnutrition because of lack of food in their homes. In Malawi, we have 2 seasons, like dry season and the wet season. So people plant their crops in the wet season, and they depend on the rains to water the crops. But with that system, many people were affected by hunger, because by the time they reached dry season, all the maize, all the food were no more, were like finished in their homes. And they had to wait for another wet season to plant more crops.
How dry is the dry season?
In dry season, we don't have rains, but we have my village was favored because we have so many river streams that never gets dry during the dry season. Yes, so
I need you to describe how dry is dry. I walked through the fields yesterday and it was just like straw. I mean, it was just all brown. Tell how dry is.
so when I said dry season, almost everything in the farms is dry. The grass is brown, the sand is very dry. You cannot find moisture during that time. Yes, so the people wait for the rainy season to plant again.
Okay.
That's very good.
Yeah, so after we worked for a year, Makita Hill came, and when she saw what we were doing, she wanted to send us $2,500 to use it in any way that we could. So before she sent the money, I told Makita that I think we can use the money to start the sustainable agriculture project. I told her that about that story, that in my villages we only plant once a year and people were starving, children were dying, there were no food in their homes, and people only waited and depended on government to provide them with food during the dry season. So by then I had watched this documentary about irrigation. They were planting their crops twice. I think somewhere, I just watched it for about 5 minutes, but it was not in Malawi. But the people were planting their crops twice a year, and they were watering the crops using the big pipes that pumped the water from the ocean to the farms. So I said, in my village we have so many river streams that never gets dry during the dry season. Why, instead of using the pipes, we dig the man-made canals to bring the water from the river streams to the farms and water the corn, the maize during the dry season, and allow these poor people at least to harvest twice a year and have enough food. And another factor that I looked on was that people were planting the local maize. Actually, local maize takes so many months, up to 5-6 months before one can harvest. And because of that, once they plant in October, in November, in December, by the time the rain season is over, and that's in April, many people were affected by dry spell and they could not harvest much. So I said, why can't we introduce this practice of planting hybrid maize, which takes just few months before one can harvest. And then I realized that for one to plant a hybrid corn, then that person needs to have a fertilizer to apply to that hybrid maize or hybrid crop. But then we only had $2,500, and for that to work, despite building the canals or digging the canals, but we needed to have hybrid maize, we needed to have fertilizer, and the money was not enough. So I said, no, I think we can do something. Let's make our own compost manure, like man-made manures, and then we mix that, we apply that to the maize, and then later on we apply to the fertilizer, because with the money we could only buy few bags of fertilizer. Yeah, so with the help of government agriculture agents, we made our own compost manure. We first applied them to the farms. We dig the canals and brought the water. And we identified 25 widows to be the first beneficiaries of the project. And when we identified them, we gave them 5 kilograms of hybrid seed and a 25 kilogram of synthetic fertilizer, which was not enough at all. But the good thing was that we already had a composite manure as a starter for the fertilizer. So by the time they harvested, they had huge harvest, and they were able to keep some to eat throughout the season. They were able to sell some and had raised some money to buy more farm inputs and donate 1 bag of 50 kilograms to Otakalaka, so that we could support the older people that were taking care of the orphans.
Now the 25 widows, they were among the poorest of the widows, and they had a lot of children that they were taking care of, orphan children.
So these 25 widows that we identified had over 5 children in their homes. Okay, these 25 widows that we first supported were taking care of orphans in their homes, and the minimum number that we took that year was 5 orphans. Yes.
So it was one widow and 5 orphans, the minimum.
Minimum of 5 orphans.
So they had to be among the poorest of the widows.
Like the one
Taking
that
care.
you are going to meet. Okay, I remember there was this widow. She was the only surviving elder sister in her family. She had lost her 3 sisters and had left her the total number of 9 orphans. She had 5 more children, like 5 biological children. So she was like, she had 14 children in her house. Yeah, so she was among the first widows to get help from this project. And now, after she successfully harvested, and after she sold part of her harvest, she was able to even buy more fertilizer and more hybrid seed using the money from the sales that she had made. And as of now, she has built a good house. She is able to support both the orphans and the children. Actually, she's now married and she's doing fine. You cannot even describe her, like the way she used to, her appearance years ago and her appearance now. You can hardly recognize her. You can hardly recognize her because her life has changed because of this.
Perfect. Hey,
So-
gang,